This is the story of one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in recent history. A case that left investigators baffled, victims traumatized, and the public terrified. Between 2003 and 2009, across 3 different states, women reported encountering the same man. But he wasn't just any man. He became known as the Smiling Man, and to this day, no one knows who he is, or what he wanted, or where he is now. This is his story. It started in March 2003, in a small suburb outside Chicago. Jennifer Martinez had just moved into her new apartment. She was excited about her fresh start, a new job, a new place, a new life. On her 3rd night there, around 11 p.m., she heard a knock at her door. She looked through the peephole and saw a man standing there, tall, thin, wearing a dark suit that looked decades out of style. But what caught her attention was his face. He was smiling, not a friendly smile, not a normal smile. His mouth was stretched too wide, his lips pulled back too far, like someone who had never seen a smile before and was trying to copy one from memory. Jennifer didn't open the door. She asked who he was, what he wanted. He didn't respond. He just stood there, smiling. She told him to leave or she'd call the police. He didn't move, didn't blink, just kept smiling at the peephole, as if he could see her through it. Jennifer backed away and called 911. By the time police arrived 15 minutes later, he was gone. The officers took her report, told her it was probably just a drunk person or a prank, and left. But Jennifer couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong about that smile. 6 months later, in October 2003, another woman, Amanda Chin in Portland, Oregon, reported an almost identical encounter. Late at night, a knock at the door, a tall, thin man in an old dark suit, and that smile. Amanda made the same report Jennifer had. The man never spoke, never made demands, just stood there smiling through her window for nearly 2 hours before leaving. When Portland police ran the description through their database, they found Jennifer's report from Chicago. The details matched perfectly, but the cities were over 2,000 miles apart then. In January 2004, it happened again, this time in a suburb of Dallas, Texas. Sarah Williams was alone in her house when she noticed someone standing outside her living room window. She looked out and saw him, tall, thin, dark suit, and that horrifying smile. She screamed and ran to her bedroom, locking the door and calling police. When officers arrived, they found footprints in the dirt outside her window. Size 13 shoes. The man had stood there for at least an hour based on the depth of the impressions, but there was something else the police noticed. The footprints didn't lead away from the house, they just stopped, as if he had vanished. By 2005, 12 women across 3 states had reported encounters with the Smiling Man. The FBI finally took notice and created a task force to investigate. They analyzed every detail. The victims had nothing in common. Different ages, ranging from 22 to 54. Different ethnicities, different professions. Some lived in apartments, others in houses. Some in cities, others in suburbs. The only pattern was the description. A tall, thin man in his 40s or 50s, wearing an outdated dark suit, and that unnatural smile. Every victim said the same thing about the smile. It never reached his eyes. His eyes, they said, were cold, empty, like looking into the eyes of a shark. The FBI brought in psychological profilers. They concluded this wasn't a typical stalker or serial predator. His behavior didn't fit any known pattern. He never tried to break in, never made threats, never left messages. He just appeared, smiled, watched, and then vanished. Some victims reported seeing him multiple times. He'd appear on their doorstep weeks or even months apart, always at night, always silent, always smiling. One victim, Rebecca Morrison, described waking up at 3 a.m. to see him standing outside her 2nd-story bedroom window. She lived in an apartment with no balcony, no fire escape. There was no way someone could stand outside a 2nd-floor window, but there he was, smiling. Investigators developed several theories about who or what the Smiling Man was. The theory 1, a serial killer in waiting. Some believed he was a serial killer who was restraining himself, that appearing at women's doors was his way of satisfying an urge without actually committing murder. Yet, psychological profilers noted that many serial killers go through a fantasy stage before escalating to violence. Perhaps the Smiling Man was stuck in that stage, but if that was true, why did he stop? And why were all his victims still alive? Theory 2, a shared delusion. Skeptics suggested it was a case of mass hysteria or copycat reports. That after the first few cases gained media attention, others reported similar encounters either to get attention or because they'd psychologically convinced themselves they'd seen him. But this theory fell apart when investigators found that several victims had never heard about the other cases when they made their reports. Some didn't even know they weren't the only one until the FBI contacted them. Theory 3, something else. Some investigators privately admitted they had no rational explanation. The footprints that stopped. The 2nd-story window sighting. The fact that he was never caught on any security cameras despite being reported in areas with heavy surveillance. One FBI agent, who wished to remain anonymous, was quoted saying, "In my 30 years with the Bureau, I've never encountered anything like this, and I hope I never do again." The final confirmed sighting of the Smiling Man occurred in June 2009. A woman named Lisa Patterson was driving home from her night shift as a nurse. It was 2:30 a.m. The streets were empty. At a red light, she noticed someone standing on the corner. A tall, thin man in a dark suit. He was staring directly at her car, smiling. Lisa felt her blood run cold. She'd seen the news reports. She knew exactly who this was. The light turned green, but her car had stalled. She frantically tried to restart it as the man began walking toward her car. Still smiling, still staring. His walk was wrong, jerky, unnatural, like someone who was pretending to walk but didn't quite know how. Lisa's car finally started. She ran the red light and sped home, looking in her rearview mirror the entire time. He didn't follow. He just stood in the middle of the intersection, smiling, watching her drive away. Lisa called the police. They searched the area for hours. They found nothing. After that night, the reports stopped. No one has seen the Smiling Man officially since June 2009. The FBI closed the case in 2012 due to lack of evidence and no new sightings. The file remains open, but inactive. No arrests were ever made. No suspects were ever identified. But here's what keeps investigators up at night. In 2015, a Reddit thread appeared asking, "Has anyone else seen the smiling man?" Within 48 hours, over 200 people claimed to have seen someone matching his description between 2010 and 2015. Most of these reports were dismissed as hoaxes or people who had heard the story and convinced themselves they'd seen him. But 3 of the reports contained details that were never made public. Details that only the original victims and the investigators knew. Those 3 reports are still being investigated. As of 2024, occasional sightings are still reported, usually dismissed, usually explained away. But every once in a while, late at night, someone will post a photo on social media. Blurry. Taken through a window or from a doorbell camera, a tall, thin figure in the distance, wearing what looks like an old dark suit, and if you zoom in close enough, you can see it, he's smiling. The case of the smiling man remains unsolved. If you ever encounter someone matching this description, standing at your door, watching through your window, smiling that unnatural smile, the FBI advises you to, do not engage. Do not open the door, call 911 immediately, and whatever you do, don't smile back.